we are going to give people a couple minutes to log in. I know that I pressed the start the webinar button a little past noon. But Kristina, how are you? Happy Tuesday.
Thank you. Happy Tuesday to you too. It's like kind of warm out. That's exciting.
I feel like it's never warm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's all relative.
Perpetually cold. I woke up actually this morning to a snowplow outside of my building being very noisy, and I was shocked because I didn't know that it was going to snow overnight.
Yeah, I didn't either. Just a little dusting. It was
But I heard you were on a site visit this morning.
I was at the Langham, which is stunning. I thought I was going to like a completely different hotel in my mind, and then when I showed up, I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly where I wanted to be.
This is nice.
This is the right place, and it's very beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. I didn't realize it used to be an old bank, so it has like the concierge right behind the front desk has like little safe deposit boxes.
Oh, I love that.
And like, so cute. Lots of really cute touches. So
that's exciting.
Some ideas.
Good way to start your day.
Yeah. And I got street parking. It was great.
Perfect. Can't ask for much more when you're in Boston.
That's right. That is right.
So I think we've got a couple more people trickling in, but I think we can kind of launch in because we want to keep this to a nice little 30 minutes or so.
Absolutely.
So a quick little pitch, I'd say an elevator pitch about Mavinhouse describing us. So my name is Lindsey. I am located in Portland, Maine, and I service kind of northern New England as well as New York City area because I used to live there. So I know a lot about kind of both of those markets. Kristina is based in Boston. She works all throughout Massachusetts, including the Cape. So we are two of the lead planners and the designers on our team. Mavinhouse is a modern events planning firm specializing in celebrations that feel super personal and distinctly unique. We plan weddings, corporate events, brand events, intimate gatherings all throughout New England and the New York region, as well as throughout the country. So what does that really mean for you? Essentially, your celebration will be a reflection of your style and your taste matched with the creative backing and production know-how of a true expert from the Mavinhouse team, no matter what the scale or the complexity of your vision is. So anything from a private home or a hotel wedding, like Kristina was just mentioning over at the Langham. So we have all these different partnerships. We have 3 distinct partnerships that meet you where you are in the planning process. So we are a great team, in my opinion. We really value transparency and just being a partner throughout the planning process. So today we are going to be talking about you're engaged, now what? What does that mean? Kind of some tips and tricks of how to get started. Because I know I always say to people that you can live in your sense of reality, but the wedding reality, the reality of the wedding industry is a totally different ballgame. And, if you're engaged for the first time or whatever it may be, it can be overwhelming, and we don't want you to be overwhelmed. We want this to be a happy and exciting time of your life. So we're here to provide some help. So we want to remind you before we jump in with our secret tips and tricks that please ask questions in the Q&A. We will be checking the chat. You can feel free to chat us privately. You can ask a question formally, whatever you are comfortable with. We will be answering live.
Absolutely.
So Kristina, do you want to kick it off?
Sure, I would love to. So, I think this kind of goes without saying, but the very, very first step, it would be to celebrate in the moment, enjoy that you just got engaged and, feel really excited with your partner, share it with all of your friends and family, like get the good news out there. And then with that, I think comes, you can get a little ahead of yourself with feeling excited and all of the feelings that come with it. So we think the first most important thing to do once you get that beautiful rock on your finger is to start assessing what's important to you and what your priorities are. So, that kind of starts off with basic stuff like, do you think you prefer a DJ over a live band? Do you think you want more of a cocktail style feel reception versus a formal seated dinner? Do you want to get married in the spring, summer, or fall? Kind of like really basic things, but they really lead into what comes next within the planning process. Along with that is, are you the type of person that really cares about having grand design, like floral arrangements from floor to ceiling? Would you rather skimp on that and have top shelf bar and, different type of food service? So kind of really talking with your partner and thinking about what is most important to you is a good place to get started. And it will help you lead into like, okay, this is what I'm really excited about, or, oh, I didn't really think about this. And, what's this going to cost, which we'll get into that as well. But really laying the groundwork for what's going to make your special day feel most important to you and be able to provide the best guest experience as well, while also kind of making it personal to the two of you, and just really starting with that as your first step, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I always say to clients, or when I'm talking to people in consultation calls, they're always like, I don't know what to do. I know I have this budget or whatever it may be. Even before they talk about the budget, they'll say, can you make a budget for me? What does this mean? How would you spend my money?
Right.
I feel like people are always like, well, how would you spend the money?
Yeah.
And I could spend my money in a totally different way. And that's absolutely fine. Every single client spends their money in totally different ways. And it's because it comes down to the priorities. If your priority is that you're getting married at a private home and your mother has this gorgeous, gorgeous garden, and you want to make it feel like underneath your tent, it's this beautiful garden that, comes right in from the outside ceremony, and there's ceiling installations and all these things, then the design is really important to you.
Sure.
And I'm going to give you a bigger, budget area towards your flower budget or, your rental budget, whatever that may be. Whereas if, you're getting married still, maybe at a private home, but what feels more important to you is all of your friends and family being together and having a big blowout fun party.
Yep.
That to me makes me feel like you're more excited about the experience than the look of it. So there's two different things that, part of the look is the experience, but part of, to me, it's the entertainment is part of that experience. So for you, I'm going to give you more of an entertainment budget or more of a food and beverage budget, because those things speak more towards an actual guest experience on a tangible note. So it's all these things. I always say, every penny that you spend on your wedding is a personal earned money that you have, and you're making the choice to spend it, and you want to feel excited about spending that money. And you don't ever want to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm paying for this. This is so stupid. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Don't do it. It's okay. If you don't save the dates, send an email. It's okay. Don't spend the money on it. Something like that. So we always say you want to feel excited about what you're spending your money on. And for that, it comes down to assessing your priorities when you get engaged.
Absolutely.
So tip number 1, write it down, assess your priorities. And then I guess let's launch right into our second one, because once you've assessed your priorities, then we're going to recommend you make your guest list. We always send out a sample spreadsheet to create your guest list, and you want to talk to everybody. Does mom need to invite some coworkers? Does, do the great aunts need to be invited that you see at the holidays, but it's a formality situation? You need to know, are you working with 100 guests, 150? And that's going to help you make decisions along the way. So talk to everybody who's involved in the process, your fiance, your in-laws, your parents, everybody who's involved, and make sure that that guest list is comprehensive. So, you're not going to have a surprise along the way when mom is trying to invite her second cousins or something like that.
Yeah. And I think there's a common misconception that guest list maybe doesn't come before budget. And in reality, you want to know the number of people first, because when you think about it, you are feeding a specific number of people. You are decorating for a specific number of people. You're renting tables, chairs for a specific number of people. So oftentimes I think it's like, all right, well, I have this set budget, but we can squeeze Uncle Tom in, but it's maybe we would want him to know that he's going to attend first because we might have to add an extra chair or table. And, I think it's a tricky conversation to have because I think, a lot of times people want to throw this grand celebration and big party, which it should be and will be either way. But a general rule of thumb that I usually have when talking to my couples is think about really like when this is more for I guess I should start with by saying create an A list and a B list type situation. And, the A list is, excuse me, the obvious, all the VIPs, the family, the closest family, the best friends, all of that. But when trying to think of, trying to cram people and think of really like, when is the last time you actually spoke to this person? Do you have any idea what's going on in their life? Do they know what's going on in your life? Is it somebody that you would possibly have at like a holiday dinner down the road? You try to find ways where you can, if you have the budget and if you have the space to have 300 to 400 people, great, have them all come. But a lot of times that's not the case. So, trying to really think like, is it going to be hit or miss if this one particular person or group of people aren't there? And other, you can always host like a second type of party or dinner situation where you can include those people. So don't go crazy trying to think like, oh, I have to have every single human I've ever spoken to in my life at my wedding, because ultimately it is an intimate celebration. You want those closest to you there as well. So
yeah. And I think that if you're also thinking about what type of wedding you want to be planning, which we'll get into, and I think in 2 tips or so, is, really kind of think about, is less is more? Is that concept something that you're excited about? And, do you want to be able to talk to everybody on your wedding day and feel like you had a moment with each person on your wedding day? So that's all things to take into consideration when you are making your guest list. It's also exciting to kind of go through and, sit down with your partner and talk about, do these people make the cut?
Yeah.
Open a bottle of wine,
Absolutely.
have a nice night about it, and start going through.
Right. Start throwing Post-it notes all over the place. Yeah. I love it.
So why don't we move right into, because we've been hinting at this one a lot, right into our third tip.
Yep.
So we're going to say next step after you've assessed your priorities, after you've made your guest list, is to create your budget.
Yes. Everyone's favorite part.
Yes. Do you want to dive into it, Kristina?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So, I think we definitely have touched on a little bit of this. Also, go into the budget piece with an open mind. I think it's important to think about what is your dream budget versus what is your realistic budget. And I know Lindsey touched upon this as well, but prior to even getting a number on a piece of paper, make sure you're talking to all the key players, everybody that's contributing, our parents helping, our extended family members, anybody that's chipping in, and kind of just trying to decide who's going to be covering what. And then really thinking about what the difference between what you would love to spend and what you actually can spend. And that obviously there's lots of different ways to determine a right number for this. But once again, having that specific guest list in mind, and knowing that, you're not going to be over budgeting for people that aren't going to be there. So that's why that comes first. And also really just like creating sections of the budget, right? So there's like lots of different things that you're going to be considering when you're paying for your special day. And like we said, every penny spent is a personal penny. So really keeping in mind, like what's important to you, what excites you. I would say like specific areas to keep in mind, obviously, would be venue and catering. Those are probably going to be the 2 biggest pieces. But then you try and, allocating funds for entertainment, for decor, design, photography. Is videography important to you? This is where, once again, the priorities tie in, because a lot of times I talk to clients, or, they'll ask me in the in the initial call, like, whoa, where can we save money, like right off the bat? And it's, I would love to be able to give you that answer, but it kind of depends on what is important to you. So, right off the bat, if you don't care necessarily about video, there goes the cost of a videographer, but you might want to consider throwing in a second photographer if you want to be able to capture more photos of things. So I think just really trying to see like what's important to you and what is realistically going to be able to be spent. That's kind of the first step of creating the budget.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think this is the conversation where you really want to be talking to all of those key players and figure out, who's contributing what and what is everyone comfortable contributing. I know that, everybody, it's a conversation talking about money is very personal, and everybody has different levels. It might be both sets of parents are paying, as well as the couple is contributing some money, and kind of what does that all look like and what is everybody comfortable doing. And it can be hard, when you don't know too much about the wedding industry and what things can cost, because it can be a little bit of a sticker shock. But just knowing upfront what people are comfortable with and just being open to the conversation of, okay, again, bouncing back to assessing your priorities. This is our entertainment budget, and but if we wanted, and we know we're budgeting for a live band, for instance, but the live band we're budgeting for, we didn't budget to add in a section of horns. Right. And so that's an area where you're going to sit down and you're going to assess, okay, what does this mean? Right. Am I willing to add $3,000 more, say, to my entertainment budget in order to get horns in the band, or in order to have a string quartet for cocktail hour in the ceremony, or whatever those items may be? Or are you willing to add, X amount of more money into your floral budget so that you can have an installation? Or is the installation fine with not having, and maybe you bring in some more lighting to kind of create that feeling without having, to add more money to a floral budget. So there's all sorts of different ways to kind of manipulate your budget. And I think that it all kind of ties back to, the order of what we're saying, which is assess your priorities, make your guest list, and then make your budget. Don't start off saying immediately, this is how much money we're going to spend. This is what I know. Go through it and see, what, we don't have to spend that much money on this area because it's not as important to us. I always go back to save the dates. I don't want to give save the dates too bad of a rep, but I think you can send a virtual save the date. It's totally fine. Okay. Absolutely. The people who need to be at your wedding are going to be at your wedding. It's okay. Yes. They're going to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think honestly, a trend that I've been noticing is even just moving more electronic with that, like having RSVPs on a website. And so right there, that saves having to go through that.
Exactly.
Process.
I mean, and it's interesting because I had a client recently who they did virtual RSVPs, and it worked out really incredibly because one, everybody was RSVPing for 6 different events throughout the weekend. Yeah. There was a lot, you were with me at the setting, there was a lot going on. Yes. There were a lot of events to RSVP to. And if you can imagine everybody RSVPing on a card with their allergies and all these things, then having to mail it back, potentially getting lost in the mail, adding more time into your schedule to reach out to that person, whatever it may be. Virtual RSVPs get rid of that. It's an immediate response. It's $0,
all kept
and it's like it's all in one spot. And with some of the changes that are happening, in the world with the pandemic, guest counts are constantly fluctuating. You want that immediate response back.
Absolutely.
So not only are you getting like an immediate way to communicate with your guests, but you're also spending $0. You're not spending money on postage, which did go up this year. So, like, you're doing like all these things, and you're not allowing things to get lost in the mail. So those are just, simple examples of how you don't need to go out and spend $500 on RSVP cards. Like immediately there's $500 you can spend back towards, entertainment, whatever it may be.
Exactly. Yeah. And something else touching just on a guest, the guest count in general is typically, I mean, this is much further down the road, but typically your guest count isn't even due to your caterer until a few weeks before. So like some budgeting pieces could change if that number fluctuates a large amount as well. So just keeping that in mind, like along the way, like don't get too ahead of yourself with all these specific numbers until like everything is in place.
Absolutely. So I think that's a great segue into our next tip, which is, it kind of ties back to our first one, but now that you've created your guest list and you've created your budget, now you want to start thinking about your non-negotiables in terms of logistics. So, you know, we kind of talked about priorities and design versus entertainment versus food and beverage, whatever that may be. But now logistical non-negotiables would be, what are you not willing to budge on, which is the time of year of your wedding, the season, the day of the week, the location. You know, if you are desperate to be married on a Saturday in August in Maine, then that is something that it's a non-negotiable for you. And you might need to be willing to be a little more flexible in other areas, which is 2022 may not be the year that Saturday in August in Maine wedding is happening. So now, okay, let's talk about 2023. And is that okay with you? Is moving the year okay? Or is moving the date the non-negotiable? So you want to start thinking about, what does it look like? Or if I found a perfect venue and they don't have Saturday availability, but they do have a beautiful Friday, is the Friday okay with you? And what does that mean? You know, what does that mean for your guests? Are they taking an extra day off of work? Maybe that's worth it.
Right.
So there's all sorts of things where now you want to start assessing what your non-negotiables are.
Absolutely. And I think going off of that too, I think it is very important, once you have step 1, 2, and 3 in place, that the first thing you really should be focusing on is your venue. Because what I've seen happen with some clients is they fall in love with a specific vendor. So say they've been, you know, following Henry and Mac on Instagram, and they need to work with Dana, which you should always work with Dana. But if, you know, you could fall in love with her and want to specifically hire her as your photographer, but then your dream venue, your dream date, all of these non-negotiables don't line up per se with her availability. And then, you know, so that's where it kind of, these non-negotiables go hand in hand. And unfortunately, sometimes you do have to make sacrifices in certain positions, like Lindsey was just saying, like, you know, unless of course Saturday is the non-negotiable, but that could be possibly what you end up changing from a Saturday to a Friday, to be able to have your time of year, your venue, and all of your favorite or as many of your favorite vendors in place. So that's just something to keep in mind as well when determining those.
Absolutely. And knowing that, you know, setting these kind of non-negotiables is important, because it's also a conversation to have with everybody else. So for instance, if you're having a traditional Jewish wedding, a non-negotiable, because you don't have any say over this, is you can't get married on a Saturday.
Right.
So already, okay, we're not even looking at Saturday dates. We're now looking at Sundays, or we're looking at Fridays, or whatever it may be. So those are the things that come into play. It doesn't always have to be because you want something to happen. Then it's, you know, look into, are there any religious ramifications, or, you know, or does your sister, who I say this because my family always has to make adjustments because my sister is a nurse and she works on Sundays, and we always, you know, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all these things are always on Sundays, but we often celebrate on Saturdays because my sister works. So if you have a key player in your guest list who has a schedule that is not flexible, then that might be something that becomes a non-negotiable. Or say you have siblings who are still in college or still in high school, or some key players who having an event like this during the school year might be a non-negotiable. So you can't be looking into October because it's during the school year, or SAT season, or whatever it may be. Like all of these different things, it's all conversations to be having with your family members.
Absolutely. And one other quick thing to keep in mind with that too is, if you do land on a venue, it's important to ask up front, like any sorts of restrictions. And if the one thought that comes to mind is having an exclusive caterer, because sometimes a non-negotiable could be bringing in, like, I'm thinking of a specific client I worked with wanted a raw bar done from a local restaurant, but unfortunately the venue had a very, very strict policy of exclusive catering only, and they could not bring in said raw bar. And that ultimately actually ended up them turning away from that venue, because that was a big importance to all of the key players in the family, and obviously the bride and groom. So that was a non-negotiable for them, and they decided to choose another venue because of that. So those are just things which is totally fine, but those are just things to keep in mind when determining what these non-negotiables are.
Yes. So why don't we launch right into our last one here, which is my personal favorite tip.
Of course.
Because it is talk to a planner.
Yep.
Like I mentioned at the very beginning, you live in a certain sense of reality, but the wedding industry is a whole different set of reality. It's a very specific industry. I always have the best time talking to my friends about, what I do on a day-to-day basis. And they're like, this doesn't make sense to me. And I'm like, I know, but it makes the most sense to the wedding industry. And that's because, it's such a specific industry. Weddings are, they've been happening for hundreds and thousands of years. It's evolved as an industry so much. And it is this, but I don't know the word for it, but the wedding industry is just wild. And people who know about it, which are planners, can help guide you through, all of the vendors, all of the different things that you see. It's not like the movies, there's a lot of different aspects to it. So planners understand the wedding industry, and they can help guide you through the logistics simply so that you can enjoy your engagement. Absolutely. At the core, we want you to be enjoying your engagement. And I say this all the time to my clients, throughout the holidays, I specifically don't have deliverables due for my clients because I want them to enjoy the holidays. Yeah. And then, sometimes people come back and they're like, are we behind? What are we doing? And I'm like, nope, we're not behind, but I have set up your planning timeline around your life and the holidays. And I know you're going on vacation and you don't have anything due when you're on vacation or whatever it may be. So there's all these different things that planners can help guide you through, but also just allowing you to leave those nitty gritty details to the professionals, and helping, guide you through. You've made your guest list, you've made your budget, you've talked about your non-negotiables, you've assessed your priorities, all of those things. Now talk to a planner. And then what does that mean? Is all of the prep that you've done beforehand, does that align to your vision? And the planner can help guide you through it with everything from, going through your budget, making sure that it does align correctly, helping you with vendors, searching, all of those different things, everything from venue searching to transportation schedules, all of those different details. And Mavinhouse, we offer complimentary consultation calls. So we want you to talk to us. Even I always say to clients, when they're between a handful of vendors and a handful of planners, that talk to planners. We want you to go in and have the best experience possible throughout your engagement. And we want you to feel like you have a partner in that process and to have somebody guide you through that experience. So planners can just help you out.
Yeah. And I think something very unique and special about Mavinhouse in general is we are a team of these incredible women who come from all different backgrounds. We have professionals in the catering background, venue management, logistical experience, design. So we bounce ideas off of each other. And, I think just planners in general, like we know the right questions to ask when we go on venue visits. We have these Rolodexes of vendors who are tried and true and we know we can count on. And, that's just something that I don't think a lot of people think of right away. And it's very important. I mean, it's a very basic thought, but you want your vendors to show up the day of your wedding, right? So if you've never even heard of this person, a planner can help vet all of that for you as well and kind of just make you feel more comfortable. And like Lindsey said, really just take that stress off your plate. It's always tough to hear when a couple first gets engaged and, they're so excited, but then they're like, oh, this planning process is so tough. And like, I'm just so frustrated. And to us, that's, we love to hear that. Like, let's take that off your hands and just kind of guide you in the right direction and make it fun, which I think is what we all are here for.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to know from people if they're having any sort of pain points in their planning process thus far. And it could be anything from, we haven't been able to find a venue. We've looked, coast to coast and we can't find anything we like, and
Yeah.
whatever it may be. Or, I don't know how to have my mom involved in this wedding planning
Right.
process. It could be anything. It could be directly vendor related, or it could be so personal,
For sure.
or, of everything from like I love my family, but I can't have them involved in this process.
Right.
And what does
Right.
that mean
Right.
for the trajectory of your plans? And another little like thing about what Mavenhouse does is we have an online project management platform where you can tap into your plans whenever you want. You can log in, log out, leave them behind for the weekend, whatever you may want. And you don't need to invite your mom to that project planning platform. You can be very selective about, what, this is the timeline that mom receives. And that if anything happens, like, these people are being told exactly what they need to be told. And we're here to help kind of guide those conversations and make sure that you as the couple are having an enjoyable time.
Right. That's our main goal always.
We will wrap up our tips, but please, if you have any questions, feel free to chat us. We're gonna finish within the next like 3 to 5 minutes, but if you have any lingering questions, chat us. You can also DM us. I am Lindsey_Mavinhouse on Instagram. Kristina is Kristina_Mavinhouse. The main account is Mavinhouse_Events. You can also go right to our website, which is mavinhouse.com. All of our partnerships with pricing are on the website. So we're very transparent about our pricing so that you can see, how does wedding planning fit into my budget? So all of those. So let's, grab your pen, grab your pencil, grab your piece of paper. Let's go through and just recap our 5 top tips to start wedding planning once you're engaged.
Absolutely. So number 1, assess those priorities. What is most important to you? What is something that, you've been dreaming about your whole life and that you absolutely couldn't see your wedding happening without, and kind of just weigh the pros and cons of each of those.
And then after you assess your priorities, make sure you are making your very comprehensive guest list. So an A list, a B list, whatever it may be, start working on that guest list.
From there, you're going to want to go ahead and create your budget. Does not have to be the end all be all at the beginning, but most important things to keep in mind: talk to all the key players, figure out exactly who will be contributing, try to determine the difference between that dream budget and the realistic budget, what you really want to spend versus what you can spend, and kind of just really breaking down each section of the budget.
And then, of course, discuss your non-negotiables. So make sure that everybody is on the same page about what you will not budge on. And if you will not budge on the raw bar, then that is at the top of your list. It's a non-negotiable.
Absolutely. And I mean, who wouldn't? Oysters are the best. But and last but certainly not least, talk to a planner. Once again, we just really fully understand this industry. We will go to bat for you. We will ask those hard-hitting questions. We can guide you through all of your logistics right from the start of getting engaged. And we take those nitty-gritty details that we love working with and do the job for you, so you can really, really just enjoy this amazing thing that just happened. You just got engaged to your best friend, the love of your life. And that's what we're here for, to remind you to enjoy that and be able to relish in that moment.
Absolutely. So these are our top 5 tips for what to do once you're engaged. But as a reminder, this is a 2-part webinar series. So stay tuned for mid-February. We will, of course, launch the formal announcement on Instagram, but Liz and Jen Carla will be diving into what to do next after you've started with our top 5 tips. They will then bring you into the part 2 of this series. So I believe it's going to be happening right after Valentine's Day. So celebrate the holiday and everything, and then tune right in. So stay tuned. Check us out on Instagram for that announcement, and you can register and meet us back right here.
Absolutely. And once again, congratulations on your engagement. Enjoy it. Have so much fun. Let us know how we can help you.
Thank you, everybody. Please just shoot us a DM if you have any questions at all, but we will see you back in February.
Sure will.
Bye.
Bye.